I bought my land for one reason. Silence. Not the awkward kind of silence you get in a bad conversation, but the good kind. The kind where the loudest thing you hear at night is a cricket arguing with the moon. 40 acres, tucked just outside city limits, bordered by trees on 3 sides and a dry creek bed on the 4th. No neighbors close enough to borrow sugar from. No HOA rules taped to my mailbox. Just space, sky, and the slow rhythm of a life that didn't need permission from anyone. At least, that's what I thought. The property had been farmland once, decades ago, but by the time I bought it, the surrounding area had started to change. Developers crept in like ants. First came a small gated community half a mile down the road. Then another. And finally, the worst of them all, a sprawling HOA-controlled neighborhood with a name that sounded like a resort but felt more like a surveillance state. I didn't belong to that HOA. I never would. And apparently, that made me a problem. The first sign of trouble arrived in the form of a woman standing at the edge of my driveway one Saturday morning, clipboard pressed against her chest like a shield. She had the haircut. She had the sunglasses. She had the posture of someone who had never been told no and survived it. "Excuse me," she called out as I stepped off my porch. "Are you the owner of this property?" I already didn't like her. "Yes," I said. "Can I help you?" She clicked her pen with theatrical precision. "I'm Margaret Wilkins, president of the Willow Ridge Homeowners Association." There it was. The HOA Karen in the flesh. She went on without waiting for an invitation. "We've received several complaints about your land." I actually laughed. "From who?"
The deer.
Her lips tightened. "From residents. Your property is an eyesore." I looked behind me at 40 acres of trees, tall grass, and a barn I was slowly restoring. "It's private land. Zoned agricultural. I'm well within code." She flipped a page on her clipboard. "We don't allow unregulated structures, loud equipment, or..." "You don't allow..." I interrupted. "You don't allow anything on your land. This isn't your land." That was the moment she decided she hated me. Her smile disappeared completely. "Our community values standards. What happens on neighboring properties affects us." I stepped closer to the gate. "Then I suggest you look the other way." She stared at me for a long second, eyes calculating. "We'll be in touch." And just like that, she turned and walked back to her spotless white SUV, heels crunching against gravel like punctuation marks. I should have known then that she wasn't done. People like Margaret never are. The letters started 2 weeks later. Official-looking envelopes.
Hoa letterhead.
Courtesy notices at first, claims that my fence was improperly aligned, that my barn violated visual harmony, that my dirt driveway was causing excessive dust migration. I ignored them all. Then came the phone calls. Then the emails. Then the threats. She claimed my land lowered property values. She claimed I was running an illegal business. She claimed I was hosting unauthorized gatherings. None of it was true. I worked from home. I kept to myself. The loudest gathering I'd hosted was my brother and 2 friends watching a football game. Still, she escalated. One afternoon, I found bright orange stakes hammered into the ground near my western boundary line, connected by pink tape. I pulled them out. The next day, they were back closer. That's when I hired a surveyor. 2 days later, I had ironclad proof that every inch of my property was exactly where it was supposed to be. I sent the documentation by certified mail to the HOA office, addressed directly to Margaret Wilkins. For a while, things went quiet. Too quiet. Then came the buses. It happened on a Friday evening, just as the sun was dropping low and turning the sky that burnt orange color that makes everything look peaceful, even lies. I was in my workshop when I heard the first horn.
Long. Loud.
Not the kind of sound you expect on a dead-end, rural road. Then another. Then laughter. I stepped outside and froze. A party bus, neon lights glowing through tinted windows, was turning off the main road and onto my dirt drive. Then another. And another. I counted them as they rolled in, disbelief curdling into dread. 7 buses. They parked wherever they wanted. People poured out, drunk, screaming, carrying coolers, speakers, fireworks. Someone started blasting music, so loud I felt it in my chest. I ran toward the nearest bus.
Hey,
This is private property. You can't be here. A guy wearing a tank top and novelty sunglasses laughed. Lady at the gate said this was the spot. What lady?
that balloon clipboard.
Real intense. My stomach dropped. I already knew the answer, but I asked anyway. Did she give you permission to be here? Yeah, he said, slurring slightly. Said it was cleared. Big open space.
No neighbors.
I looked around as people trampled my grass, leaned against my barn, cracked open beers like it was a festival ground. And somewhere, probably sipping wine in her perfect living room, Margaret Wilkins was smiling. I called the police. So did my neighbors. By the time the sirens arrived, my land looked like a war zone. Trash everywhere, fences damaged. Someone had tried to climb onto my tractor for photos. When officers started questioning people, the story was always the same. HOA approved it. Property owner said yes. Margaret said it was fine. Margaret hadn't just crossed a line. She'd bulldozed it with 7 buses and dared me to fight back. And standing there under flashing blue lights, watching strangers destroy the life I'd built, I made myself a promise. She was going to regret this.